Hey, it's Inspiration4U.
Hi, my name is Julie Knight, and I'm the CMO at Unit 4 and your host today for Inspiration4U podcast. And this is where we have an opportunity to interview some truly inspiring people and hear their stories. So today we are joined by author and journalist Elana Gross. Elana, welcome. It's just a pleasure to have you on Inspiration4U. You have been on an incredible journey since leaving university. In fact, I was thinking about my own journey and went, wow, just not even close. So it's been amazing. And, I think between, your focus on freelance journalism, you've authored a book called What's Next, Your 5-Year Plan for Life After College. Now you're an editor at Monster. I would say you are one busy person, and we love to have busy, creative people on Inspiration4U.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely our pleasure, and we're excited to have you. So, when we first began our conversation on the podcast, and it was a bit ago. I mean, there's a lot of time between travel and a few other things that it's taken us a bit to get here. But we've talked a bit about the recent articles on depression at work and why workplaces are encouraging more mental health days. And for me, and I think for many others, it's a timely topic, not only because of the impact of the pandemic itself, but pressures of the 24/7 always on work environment. And I think that's particularly acute for those who work in global companies. And I know we have that phenomenon, and trying to actively tackle it. But before we get started on the Q&A, I wanted to throw some statistics out for our listeners, because it really is daunting. It's a thing. And our guest has got a lot of insights, and I think some pretty good ideas on how to tackle it and what companies need to be doing. So, I took this from the article that you had written, Elana, on in Monster about the survey that was done, and it was over 1,000 full-time and part-time employees in the U.S. and many of those employees are experiencing depression, 24%. Physical illness, 12% as a result of their job, which is just, it's staggering. And 34% said that their job negatively affects their mental health, which, I remember when I first started in business, we didn't even talk about it, but you certainly could see it, but it was maybe a bit of a taboo topic. So, off of that, I took a look at some other stats. There's a recent Deloitte survey, and it said that nearly 70% of professionals feel their employees are simply not doing enough to alleviate burnout within the organization. 21% of respondents said the company does not offer any type of program or initiative to prevent or alleviate burnout, which in this day and age seemed a little surprising. So we'll delve into that. And finally, 87% of professional surveys say that they have a passion for their current job, which I think that's great to know. But 64% say that they are frequently stressed. And it really is dispelling the myth that passionate employees are immune to stress and burnout. We think, hey, if you're really passionate, then you don't have any of that. And that is that's simply not true. So, I found those statistics startling, and I wanted to dig into this with you. And, I think the first question here is, mental illness, as you wrote, is one of the top causes for worker disability in the U.S. 62% miss work days as a result of or attributed to mental health conditions. And, you decided that this was really, one of the key reasons why this was happening. Share with us why. What's going on?
Yeah, so I had written this article a few years ago, so it was before the pandemic. So I'm sure the numbers have climbed up even more, considering, working from home, that kind of shift in work-life balance, the
Yeah.
stress of working through a pandemic, especially if you have kids at home and partners at home and so much chaos going on. Um, so I think the stats would be even more staggering now, probably, than it was then. But I think the good thing is that things have shifted a little bit. And I think that business owners are realizing that burnout is such a problem. You know, we saw the great resignation, so many people resigning. It kind of is a workers' marketplace now, in terms of looking for jobs and in terms of companies wanting to retain their employees. A big part of that is making sure there's, like, decent work-life balance, high employee morale, a positive work environment, uh, colleagues that are collegial and not competitive, so many of these things. And they really need to do that now in order to keep talent and in order to recruit top talent. So I think that is one positive that's going to come from everything and from all of this, is that I think there is more of an emphasis now on focusing on mental health and focusing on well-being in work and focusing on work-life balance and all of these ways to make your work life better.
Which is a positive. And I know at our own company there's been a lot that has been put in place. And certainly as I take a informal poll of colleagues at former colleagues at other companies, or just see what's posted on LinkedIn, or in the popular press, there's a lot going on there. But as we get down to the relationship between a manager and an employee, do you think these discussions are happening? Do you think managers are open and employees feel there's enough, I guess, trust to discuss issues such as burnout, even physical illness, as it relates to mental health issues? And if not, why?
Some businesses have actually kind of taken that next step and are having trainings for any direct managers and executives on talking about depression and anxiety and burnout and stress. And I think that's so great and such a great way to start to destigmatize it. And I think also having managers and executives who are willing to have those transparent conversations and say, I've struggled with X, Y, Z, is also so helpful with any type of leadership. It starts from the top and then, trickles down. So I think that is a big thing. And I also think if someone is uncomfortable talking to their manager and saying, I'd like to take a mental health day, use one of your sick days, or, hopefully there's someone in HR who has been trained in having these conversations and helping people. And I also believe that in order to use an EAP, which I think stands for Employee Assistance Provider
Program, yeah, yeah,
program,
uh-huh.
so many acronyms these days, you
I know.
don't, you can either go to HR or you can just go directly through, whichever insurance company you're using. And those are completely confidential. So your workplace is not going to find out what the conversations are about. It's all HIPAA. So it's completely private.
Yeah, no, and most definitely. And the nice thing is that EAP, or employee assistance programs, have been around for quite some time. And I think that they've expanded in terms of their offerings. I would say, one challenge might be, as you think about people feeling open to doing that. And I know when we first started, down the path of the pandemic, we heard a lot back from our employees about this fear about being always on, being always available, right? I'm of course, I'm at home, I'm around my computer, I'm around my phone. I should just be able to answer. I should demonstrate that, I guess, sadly, in the words of Elon Musk, I'm not pretending to work. I'm actually working. And I think some people, may have taken that to heart in a very extreme way. But is there still a stigma associated with EAP, or do you think that with all of the discussions around wellness programs and other things, that people are okay in saying, yeah, I'm going to go do this.
I mean, there really it's so unfortunate that there are things that are stigmatized. If I went to the doctor because I
Yeah.
had the flu, no one would think anything of it. It's
Right.
mental health is just as important as your physical health. And I don't really know where the stigma comes from and how we can fully eradicate it. But I think hopefully we're making steps towards that. Um, and I think with the EAP, like it's such a therapy bills can range from, you know, $75, $50 to $450 and more. This is a way to get 3 to 5. It's usually around 3 to 6 sessions that it's capped at. Way to get free
Mm-hmm.
help. Way to get resources, some coping mechanisms, and these people are all trained so they can help with a wide variety of things, workplace stress, anxiety, depression, bereavement, addiction, so many different things. And it's such a great resource and a way to invest in yourself without actually investing all of the money to go to someone and pay for it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think knowing is half the battle, and then being able to reach out and get more information and make that first call or make that first outreach is really a very valuable step. So changing the conversation a little bit, the thing that I've seen become, I'll say, more of a thing, is mental health days
Mm-hmm.
or weeks, mental health Fridays. And, I mean, generally speaking on LinkedIn, it's been a big thumbs up. Yeah, this is great, overwhelmingly positive. I can, spend time just relaxing. I can spend time with my family. A nice thing can be that, everybody's taking it. So there isn't just some people who are taking it and others are not, which means there's the struggle of, I want to be taking a mental health day, but I'm besieged by whether it's, Slack messages or, text or email. Um, do you see more and more companies, be it whether it's in the tech space or in other industries, looking at this as something that is more commonplace? They're baking it into how they set out their corporate calendar or their regional calendar. Is that something we're going to see more of?
Definitely. And, mental health days are so helpful. And I think I agree with the mental health weeks and with ways to kind of, if someone's not comfortable saying, I need a mental health day, being able to put it down as a sick day or just having kind of an unlimited amount of PTO and not designating what the day is for is also helpful. But I do
Mm-hmm.
think these mental health weeks are great. Like I've seen a lot of companies where they all take the week off, but there are also little things that companies can do, like encouraging people not to email on the weekends and not to email after hours. Like there are little ways that, short of taking a full mental health day, I think you can kind of reset the culture a little bit.
I know that we didn't get a chance to touch on this, but given where you work at Monster, are there companies that, or just as you research the topic, and I realize these articles are a few years old. Are there some companies out there that you see, or some industries that are trending in this direction, and who's doing it well?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot recently. I remember
Yeah.
Bumble, for example, they kind of made
Hmm.
headwaves when they recently announced during the pandemic that everyone was going to take a full week off. And I think that it would be continuing annually. There are a lot of companies that are doing summer Fridays and doing other ways to create more work life balance other than the mental health week off, but doing things like job sharing and flex time. And obviously now we've all jumped, or many of us have jumped into remote work.
Right.
So all different ways to not only take days off, but also realize that people need time off when they are working. So like ways to make work for you. I mean, the 9 to 5 schedule was in, created so long ago, and it was really created when there was only one, in two person households with only one working parent. So the whole systems doesn't exactly work for families. So I think all of these ways of introducing more flexibility is so important.
Yeah, I like to see, this, let's call it the a la carte menu of opportunities, right? And different ways that you can tap into this, and that there isn't any one way, but there's multiple ways to do it. It could be mental health day is I'm going out with my team and we're simply going out, on a team hike, or spending a day at a beach, and just simply relaxing. And that is, that's a big step, for a lot of companies. So let's talk about leaders. Because leaders can often not necessarily be the best examples, both in sharing their own struggles, or one thing that I've seen, actually, it's interesting, the type of posts that are coming on LinkedIn these days about people are very much, poo-pooing this, the people that espouse, the 80-day work week. I sleep 4 hours, and then I'm just right back at work, and I don't need that, and that's how you make it in this competitive environment, and people are just, they're just saying that's not healthy. So let's start with the role of leaders in creating a dialogue on the topic. Again, who do you think, are there any leaders out there that you think are doing this well, are really, taking the mantle to share where they've had challenges and how they've overcome it, and how they're translating that personal experience into what do we do at the company, in their corporate environment, to help others?
That's a good question. None stick out at the top of my head, although I think that Reshma Saujani from Girls Who Code, I think she recently
Mm-hmm.
wrote a book all about failure and kind of destigmatizing failure and learning from failure and kind of reprogramming how you think about it. And I think there was also a class at Smith that was
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to failure and talking about failure and making mistakes. And I think, if you view a mistake or a failure as what you learned from the experience and how you grew from the experience, I think that's so helpful. And you can learn so much more a lot of times from these failures than successes. And I think with leaders, especially, you kind of see all of these success stories, and it seems like it was this overnight success and they just blew up overnight. And no, there's like so much that happens along the way. Like, I remember I interviewed Kendra Scott years ago, and her first company, went bankrupt, and now she has this I think a billion-dollar company. And there are so many billion-dollar company, and there are so many stories like that where their first thing didn't succeed, but they kept going and they made something that did. And I think it's so important to talk about those stories and how it's not just this
Well, yeah. I mean,
straight
I think
path
there's there's
always.
that little cartoon that, the plan and then the execution is something like this, and you see that in terms of leader stories, whether it's leaders in the tech world or in the sports world. I mean, the sports world is filled with it. You see people that have come into the ranks of being a coach or a manager, and it's first time in whether it professional, at a professional sports franchise, and it's a spectacular failure, and then there's the resurgence, and then there's sometimes, I mean, it's up and down, and those are all learning opportunities, but rarely is it up and to the right with a boulevard of green lights. That just simply isn't the case, and probably not quite an honest representation. So from your perspective, then maybe we're starting to see a shift of business leaders being willing to share their own struggles, that it's okay to show vulnerability in leadership, into your teams, to show yeah, I'm a person just like you. I have the same fears. I have the same failures. I struggle with, whether it's getting my kids out the door for school, or, I missed 2 weeks of working out because I just didn't want to get out. I'm like, we're all the same. Do you see that? And do you think that's more of a trend these days?
Definitely. And I know a few years ago for Well+Good, I wrote a piece and interviewed business owners of smaller business owners who were all focused on making mental health and well-being and talking about failure part of their work culture. I was just thinking
Right,
there's
right.
Sarah Blakely from Spanx. She I think has something called Failure Fridays, and she and her employees will all talk about, what went wrong, the failures that they had. And I think
Oh, well, it is. It's great. It's
that's
brave,
kind of great
and
to talk about your
and
successes as well as your failures and
inevitably,
what you
there's
learned
always
from it.
something to be learned, right? Yeah. Well,
Definitely.
I know we didn't have a lot of time today, but it has been an absolute pleasure to have you join us and talk about mental health in the workplace. But with that, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, to those that are new joiners to the workplace, perhaps some seasoned veterans like a few of us, or leaders, on how they can help, and of equal importance, offer help to those in need?
Yeah, I think it's all about, for one thing, focusing on yourself and your well-being, and taking the mental health day if you need it, or taking the sick day and using it as mental health day if you need it, getting help, kind of being aware of when you're feeling that anxiety and burnout, and talking to someone, using an EAP, talking to a therapist, talking to experts to find out, coping mechanisms and ways that you can feel better. Um, and then just being a listening ear for people, talking to them about the resources that are available to them. I think when people started a new company, it would be really helpful if, as part of the benefits package, when you're explaining the benefits, to say, like, we also have an EAP available and here's how you would access it. So, you know, making sure that your current and new employees all know about all of the benefits that they have available, and all of the resources that they have, because I think a lot of times you just don't know what resources there are. You get that, like, kind of boring jargon
Yeah,
package, and you're reading through it, and
I
then you
know.
kind of stop, like, a top line of what's in it for you, and then taking advantage of those resources.
Yeah, consumable content, and also access to people who really understand it, because sometimes when you need those type of services are the times that, going through an 85-page onboarding document is probably, you may not be equipped to do that at that particular moment. So with that, we'll end it there. Alana, many thanks for your time and fantastic insights. I want to thank all of you for joining us today for the episode of Inspiration4U, which is brought to you by Unit 4. If you enjoyed this episode, do follow us on social at Unit 4 Global on Twitter and Instagram, and Unit 4 on LinkedIn, and Unit 4 Business Software on Facebook. And if you're interested in learning more about Unit 4, please visit us at www.unit4.com/contact us. And with that, have a terrific day wherever you might be.